All right, y'all, we made it. Another year in the books. 2025, kind of a wild year, a very volatile year here at HNS and everywhere. The end of the year is always a time for reflection, to look back at what was good and what was bad from the past year, carry the good things forward into next year, and try to figure out and change the bad. I've got some really interesting things to carry forward into the next year. I'm really excited to share. Certainly some bad things that I need to work on. But let's do the thing that we love to do here and drink some coffee. All right, first up, from Ethiopia, this is Buncho. This is a mainstay coffee here at HNS. We've been buying it for 3 or 4 years now. It is the honey processed coffee that we buy from Ethiopia each year. And this is also produced by Deborah. This coffee is very sweet. It's very subtle. It's quiet. It's very, very sessionable. And I'd say the acidity is not screaming on this coffee. So we have just one sort of acidic note on this, and it's with the persimmon, which has a little bit of a citric-like quality to it, but really kind of leans very sugary and into honeyed, caramel-like flavors. We then also have wildflower honey and marzipan for the notes on this coffee. And the wildflower honey, I think, is definitely present. There's a slight florality to that. That's what the wildflower part of the honey note represents. And leading into the finish, a bit of a nuttiness. I'd say it's very slight. It's definitely this morning tasting pretty slight. This coffee is all about sweetness. Very sessionable. This is a really easy drinking coffee. Perfect for the bag slot number 1 for our last month of the year for Roaster's Choice subscriptions. We'll come back to this one as we work our way through. Next up, for our bag slot number 2 in the Roaster's Choice subscription, this is El Sendero. This is produced by Andres Martinez. Andres is a graduate, I believe, of the Unblended Young Producer Program, which aims to provide a great start to young producers in Colombia, young folks who want to grow coffee. Growing coffee, producing coffee, it's not a very appealing or attractive career choice for a lot of young producers. And so Unblended is here to try to help out with that and to make it a worthwhile venture, right? So Andres has a advanced degree in biochemical engineering. He's worked for Diego Bermudez before. He has also worked for one of the big producer exporter companies in Colombia. He's taken a lot of this knowledge into his own farm, El Sendero, and produced one of the most interesting, fun, floral geisha Colombia coffees that we've encountered this year. We have said before, this may be one of the most floral coffees, the Sebastian White Honey Geisha. This is right there with it. It is a huge bouquet of floral, a ton of fragrance. It's bright and interesting and clean and just a beautiful, beautiful coffee. And to end our year with the Roaster's Choice subscription with this coffee, I think is just a wonderful statement as we look forward to what's to come in the future. Producers like Andres Martinez are going to be names that you're going to start hearing the way that you're hearing Diego and you're hearing Nestor and you're hearing Sebastian now. You're going to be hearing Andres in the years to come, for sure. Big rose up front, really, really intense. It's a very strong, fragrant note, leading into a tangerine, just to represent a citrus-like quality to the acidity on this coffee, and then finishing with jasmine. And it's a little tea-like into the finish. It is certainly has some of those jasmine pearl qualities. Otherwise, just a ton of fragrance and fragrant aromatic floral character, and I would say rose is absolutely at the forefront of that. This is a really sensational coffee, and I'm so pleased to finish the year of the Roaster's Choice subscription with this one. It's fantastic. Oh my. Okay, let's move on to a very familiar name that we all know and love. This is El Diviso. Produced by Nestor Lasso, and a coffee that you just got to smile at. Nestor and Diego and Sebastian, they are just wizards at what they do. They produce flavors that are so exceptional and unique and challenging and exciting and dynamic. And relatively speaking, for Nestor Lasso, this is one of the quieter coffees, one of the least weird coffees that we've put out. It still has a lot of interesting things going on. It's a really fun coffee. So we start off with key lime pie, and the key lime aspect is really strong on this. The acidity is very bright. It's a little bit bracing up at the very top of it, and then leading into herbes de Provence, a French term for a mix of herbs that would go into a dish. So including basil, rosemary, thyme, parsley, sage, rosemary, thyme, the Simon and Garfunkel song, and it's there. There's a lot of interesting herbaceousness to this coffee, a lot of herbality to it. And then we finish with another really interesting note, Fruit Loops, which on retrospect maybe is not quite the most appropriate note. There's a little bit of a artificial sugary cerealness to the finish in this coffee. Fruit Loops might not be quite right. That might be a little more berry-like than what I'm tasting here. This is a little more tropical. It's a little more citrus-based on that sweetness, but in there, it's sort of jammy and it's kind of thick into the finish. As always with Nestor's coffees, it's just a lot of play between different notes and sensations on the palate, and it really takes you in a lot of different directions as you're drinking through it. It's fun. It's really, really fun. I love the slightly savory herbaceousness of this coffee coming from that key lime, that really bright, juicy acidity into this green herbaceousness. And they complement each other so well in a way that you might not expect it to. Really a fun coffee. As always, hats off to Nestor, one of our all-time favorite producers at H&S. Okay, and finally, our last drop of the month. This is Deborah Aril. This is our last Savage coffee of the year. It is a hybrid process, and there's a lot going on in this cup. What I'm drinking and brewing today is about 2 months post-roast. I'm drinking from my first batch of this coffee, which was profiled to a hyper light profile, and which I just wasn't sure if I liked where it was. I felt it was a little too light, even for H&S standards, even for hyper light status. And I had to really dwell on what I wanted to do with this coffee. I held off on releasing it for at least an extra month. So I kind of tried to figure that out. Finally, at about the 6-week mark, it started to open up. So right around 40, 50 days, it finally started to show itself. And I found that the profile that I had established back in early mid-October was actually really good. So it's been said by a lot of folks out there, but patience is rewarded with H&S coffees when we recommend a certain amount of rest time on our coffees. Depending on your palate and how you taste coffee, you have to adjust that number. But for this coffee, certainly, even for me, the patience was rewarded. This coffee finally started to open up, and I realized that profile was really, really nice for this coffee. This is another very soft and subtle coffee. It's perked up a little bit today. It's showing a little bit more tartness, but another bouquet of florals. This time, they're not quite as fragrant. They're a little more rooted in what we expect, with a Panama geisha florality. And it's a little darker, a little more purplish to it. So as a hybrid process, this has a carbonic macerated natural step that then is finished with a washed process. And so there's definitely a lot of berry-like fruits to this one, but it also, I would say, is nice and clean. This isn't really going to taste anything like a natural coffee at all. And really the violet note on the top, I think, kind of tells the tale. It's a great note just for this coffee and to start off the taste on it. Moving into a white strawberry, so not a super ripe and not a very dark berry-like taste to it, but still a little bit in there. We're using a white strawberry to represent that. And then finally finishing with hibiscus, another sort of tart tea-like note that I've been using for a lot of these coffees lately. And I think is a pretty good way to represent a little bit of tartness. Beautiful coffee. It's very elegant. It's really well structured, and there's a lot of complexity to it. Okay, so we're going to go back through for another taste and fold in our rest and brewing recs. And we had a lot of different brews today, and I really like how they all turned out. So back over here with the Buncho. Today I brewed this with the Grey Kano brewer, and I used a standard 1:16 ratio. I think that standard ratios are going to be rewarded with this coffee. It's a very sweet and a very sessionable cup. I think settling into the comfort of this coffee as a honey process and enjoying those sweet notes is what's going to taste best with this one. And as I'm tasting it again, the slightly floral character with that wildflower honey is making itself known. It's pleasant, but mostly it's just very sweet. For rest, we've got it at 30 days. I think this could be ready a little earlier. It's tasting a little bit on the more developed side of ultralight for our standards. So I'd say 20 days, this might start to open up. Of the coffees on the table, it's definitely going to be the one that's ready first. Okay, next up, the El Sendero. Floral bomb. It's so big. It really punches you with florality. This morning, I brewed it with the Gabby Standard at a 1:18 ratio, and I really wanted to push that floral character, and certainly it held up well to being pushed. It's a strong coffee. It's very intense. For a floral, fragrant geisha, it's quite intense. I think this one could go a lot of different directions. The Gabby Standard's tasting really nice today. It's a little maybe dry on the finish for this brew. It's just a huge floral bouquet. Every which way that I've brewed it, it has led with that rose note every single time. Really beautiful. And for rest, I think the 30-day mark that we recommend for this ultralight coffee is definitely going to be a good marker. So, okay, on to Nestor's El Diviso. That savory herbaceousness, it's so much fun. I brewed this coffee this morning with the Gebby Gentle recipe, so a 1:17 ratio, and I really like it. It's big and it's really juicy. There's a ton of acidity. The herbaceous quality to it is present. It's kind of all in there. The sweetness, that artificial sugary cereal-like sweetness on the finish is there. It's not super strong, but it's very nice. Mostly this coffee is key limes and herbs. And with all of Nestor's coffees, you're going to get something really interesting. However you choose to brew it, I think it's going to work in a lot of different methods. Espressos and soups could be quite intense, but probably a lot of fun. And in terms of rest, ultralight, 30 days, yeah, I think so. I'm interested in how this one's going to change over time. 40, 50, 60-day marks, I'm wondering if there's going to be a shifting of the priorities of the taste in this coffee. Okay, lastly, for the Deborah Aril. I brewed this one at a 1:16 ratio this morning with the April brewer. I had to fine up the grind a little bit. Definitely need to push this one a little bit harder. It is not very soluble at all. And I also noticed that it kicked up some fines. The brew was fairly slow this morning. But I think that certainly didn't result in a sour cup or anything like that. It did bring a little more tartness into the coffee, and it's a little louder than it has been as I've been drinking it for the last few weeks. So push it hard. 1:16 ratios are fine. You can switch it up and go a lot of different ways, I'm assuming, with this one. But certainly on rest, I would say 50 days, 60 days is really where you're going to want to wait for this one to open up. Prior to that, it's going to be a very, very quiet coffee. And with rest and patience, it's very elegant. Great word for this. It's complex. It has excellent structure. It's a little quiet, and it's presenting its notes in a very subdued fashion, but they are there and they're very worth exploring. And there's a lot of interesting notes, floral notes, tea-like notes to explore with this one. So fun. What a month. Thank you, as always, for supporting H&S. It's been a wild year. And as we enter into 2026, I have some huge plans for H&S to keep things going, to keep things interesting. On the note of Roaster's Choice subscriptions, as I'm getting a lot more messages recently about it, the current plan is February 2026 to reopen subscriptions. Details to follow, and some other really interesting things are coming. I would love to talk about them, but we should probably wrap up the video here. So a happy end of year to you all out there. If you are a resolution type person, what are your resolutions for next year? For me, I want to release more coffees, more lots than I did this year or last year. And I want to get better at buying coffee, at sourcing coffee. I think that that is always a pursuit I want to get better at, and I want to introduce more variety. As much as we love our long-standing relationships with producers, there are other new producers out there and new origins that I will want to explore. So let me know what your resolutions are. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the coffees this month. A lot of really great coffees and very dynamic cups here on the table. So I will see you all next year. All right. Happy sipping.